All right. It said recording in progress, and we know what that means. We're doing things entirely differently, Trina, aren't we? We're recording our shows and not going out live. But what that means is that we have the pleasure of being able to go wherever we want to around the world, whenever we want to, and spend as much time as we like. And we've got a very special program lined up for today, don't we? Why don't you tell us about Trina?
Well, I just really fell in love when Sarah told her story. And if you've watched the last week's broadcast, you'll hear Sarah tell her story in the dark in Nairobi in Kenya, and it's a really good way to know real human beings across the world. So, and this is a continuation, and I hope that we're going to do more things with Sarah. And it's a real inspiration to me, so I see this as a kind of mini series within Scott and my series of coming on every Monday afternoon at 2:30, and so right now, it's Scott is in Seattle, Washington, so very early in the morning. Sarah is in Kenya. Well, it's still kind of light, so we can see some light on her face this time and not have it in total darkness like last week. So thank you, Sarah, for coming on like this. And we're going to make it work together in a spontaneous way because what I found in both my work in Egypt with young girls is that the basic things we care about are the same all over the world. And that
Mm.
is very important for people in Africa and other countries to know that don't listen to all the stuff that comes from America and think it's better than yours. So I'm kind of part of the indigenous movement to move us back to earth-based growing of food, which Sarah's mother is my rock star in. So I'm hoping that we get Sarah back to her village from Nairobi, where things are very much like here in many respects, dependent on city life and dependent on supermarkets and dependent on all kinds of other things that are very much like Western things, cell phones and everything else. And her mother is back there in the village. And so we hear about it whichever she tells her story. And I hope she can get back there at the same time. And we're planting season all over this latitude of the world. So let's go, Sarah. Let's anything of this that you think we should start with today? The subjects that are important and are cross cultural here.
Thank you, Trina and Scott. I think we can continue with the story that we introduced last week because whatever we want to talk about is very much connected to land, very much connected to lifestyle and everything. So, like Trina said, this is our planting season. And in Kenya, we have parts that are well known for planting. Where I come from, it's a Rift Valley. And Rift Valley is a place that actually produces food to almost the whole of Kenya because we have good soil, we have good rains, like we can time the rains, and the rains are also enough, they come at the right time. We have not experienced destructive rains like other parts of the country for so many years. And farmers at my place are almost able to even predict the exact day they are supposed to plant and the exact day that it will rain. Like my mother will always tell you, it will rain on the 15th of March. And that is exactly what happens. And everybody else who has lived in the Rift Valley will prepare their land at least by 20th of March. Most of the land is prepared, ready for planting. Now, we have different types of farmers in the Rift Valley. We have those ones who do commercial farming, and there are those ones who are peasant farmers, and they just do farming for food. Some it's because they're limited to land. For those ones who do commercial farming, they have large types of farm, and those ones who are peasant farmers have very smaller farms. Now, my mother is one of the peasant farmers, but I really love her farming because since we got this land, we've never lacked food. We have enough food from our farm, And she has her own way of doing her farming. She uses fertilizer and manure, which she makes it from the leftovers in the home, from the animal waste, from the leaves of the trees, and she's able to get her manure. A person like this at my place is considered a very poor person because they cannot afford the the fertilizers that are sold, and these fertilizers are actually sold by the government. So one thing that I came to realize, I am a climate change ambassador. I became a climate change ambassador it's now about 10 years I've been a climate change ambassador. At first, I also thought we were poor because we would not afford this fertilizer. But when I became a climate change ambassador, I've interacted with so many knowledgeable people, um, especially in the Grail. This is an international organization where I've learned a lot. I came to realize that my mother is practicing a very rich kind of farming. Organic farming is not for the poor. Actually, it's for maybe I would call it for people with a lot of wisdom, because not everybody will go for organic farming. One, because people fear, like producing the manure. It takes long. It has a lot of work for you to produce the manure, and people think that when they go for fertilizer, it's the easiest way. And whoever came with fertilizer never told people the disadvantages of using fertilizers. I think because this person was behind making money as well, that's why people were never told the truth, because people would only be told the advantages of using fertilizers, like you're going to have more produce, you're going to have your 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 crops mature very fast, you're going to have more yield from that particular uh, kind of farming. And this fertilizer didn't come alone, it came with even the seeds. And so, without people taking their time to find out what these fertilizers would do to even the soil itself, and the kind of food that it's going to produce out of the fertilizer, people had already embraced this kind of farming, and it spread. Everybody else started doing it. Even some people with small farms also started doing that. And today, um, it's becoming so complicated, because now people, like at my place, many people are very sick. If you tell them that your sickness could be related to the type of food you're eating, which is produced through fertilizers, people don't connect that, and they don't agree with that. They just think this type of diseases they are having is just something that I'm happy we have a few non-governmental organizations that are doing a lot of research, and they've come out to, they're trying to educate people in small ways. I'm also trying to do that in my small way. And when I shared this with my mother, I have about 2 women who come at my mother's place. They're my mother's friend. You find that they're interested in knowing a lot. And if you test what my mother plants, like the vegetables, they're very tasty compared to these ones that are used with chemicals and fertilizers. Actually, the ones that are planted with organic manure can just be steamed or boiled, and they still have that taste. But this other one grown with fertilizer and chemicals cannot be just steamed and have the taste. You must put a lot of ingredients in it, spices, to again sweeten them. And that is the big difference. Like I go at home, when I'm at home, there's no bread. My mom wakes up in the morning, she will boil the cassava that she has. She will boil the plantain, that she has, the sweet potatoes, and we use that for breakfast. Sometimes we take porridge that is made out of millet and sorghum. And this porridge doesn't require you to put sugar. You can actually taste. You can feel the taste. But when I come to the city and try to buy the porridge flour from the shops, most of the time you have to add at least something, like maybe put some lemon for it to taste. So I've come to realize, I've lived this practical, and I've come to realize that organic is the best and it's rich. A few people, even in the city here, we have people who have some small land in the city. A few people are trying to do that in their homes, like they're trying to make manure. And I'm happy that the other day there was a program on TV that was talking about organic manure and organic food. It was brought on, it's called Citizen TV. There was that program that was brought. Two farmers were brought, and they were sharing their knowledge of organic farming and now educating people. They're even producing these organic manure and selling it to people. Yeah, so I find it very interesting. I find it so good that at least there are people who have this knowledge, and our national TV stations are also giving that space to individuals to come and share the information that I have. Today in the morning, there was this member of parliament who was telling us how the government has added 5 more hospitals at her place. And the way she was putting it, it sounded as if it's a very good thing to have more hospitals around. And I looked at it and thought, how I wish they were not going to add more hospitals, but they changed their ways of living. Because adding more hospitals means many people are sick.
What is that word you just have used? Did you say hostels, hospitals? What is it?
Hospitals.
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 Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So personally, I think that when you add more hospitals within a region or an area, that shows that many people are very sick. That means that the existing hospital is not able to cater for the needs of the patients. Maybe it's overwhelmed with a large number of patients. But the way she was putting it, it's as if it's a good thing to add hospitals. And I was thinking they should know that whenever they add more hospitals within a place, then that means there are so many people who are very sick. And that means they should do something and find out the causes of the sickness. And one thing I know is that one of the causes of the sicknesses from the research that has been done in Kenya is people consuming food that has been grown out of fertilizer and chemicals. And we have some scholars who are trying to do a lot of research, and I'm praying that one of these fine days I join them. They're doing a lot of research about soil, food, chemicals, fertilizers, and the kind of seeds that exist in Kenya. Like, why are we not allowed to produce our own seeds? And this is a rule coming from the government. What are they up to? It's something we need to find out and find a way of at least having people produce their own seeds, indigenous seeds.
So,
Yes.
Sarah, I'm going to interrupt you because they're saying that the government regulates whether or not you can buy seeds, and they tell you which seeds that you can buy. You can't just use your own seeds that you grow and recycle. Could you explain that a little bit more, please?
Okay, like for some of the farmers who want to to produce their own seeds, they're not allowed. Actually, I don't know the reason why, but the government will always give an alternative of the seeds, and it encourages these people to buy what the government has in store, rather than these farmers producing their own seeds. So they will come up with a way of even subsidizing the prices of the seeds so that it looks like it's cheaper for the farmers. But what happens is that these farmers are buying these seeds on a yearly basis. Like there's no year that the farmers are able to even produce their own seeds and say, from my harvest, these will be the seeds, and this is what I'm going to sell, and this is what I'll consume. Everything is sold, and then they go back. In fact, they call it certified seeds by the government. So when people see it's certified seed by the government, they'll prefer to go buy that without knowing that some of these seeds are even GMOs. And you see, like the tomatoes that we eat here today, if you look at those tomatoes outside, the outside cover is very ripe, but inside it's very raw. And these are some of the results. We have cowpeas here. Cowpeas is a certain type of vegetables. I don't know whether it's in the US, but here we have it. And if you taste the cowpeas, the traditional one, it's so tasty. But if you eat these, the one that you buy seeds from the government shops, it doesn't have a taste. It has a lot of, should I call what? How do I put this? Yeah, but it's not tasty. That is the thing.
Good. Does that also mean that it's not as nutritional?
The part of nutritional, I'm not sure, but I guess if it's a GMO,
Trina?
Makes a difference. It's been tested to say that organically raised heritage seeds, which is what Sarah is talking about, that her mother uses, is much more nutritional. And it's also been tested that something raised with biodynamic agriculture is a more even intensive form of organic agriculture. So that's something to look up too if you're interested in this theme. So Sarah, it's a great discussion that you have, and so you presented this very well. And I think there's a couple of words that I think we have to work with a little bit, because the word manure in our culture means really the dung from animals only. It does not mean what I would call compost, which is what you put all these things together that you described, the leaves, the food waste, and the manure. You put it all together and let it heat up and process for some months and become a wonderful fertilizer, natural fertilizer. And I think when you use the word fertilizer, right now you're talking about the chemical fertilizers that people buy, because compost makes the ground fertile and will grow plants. And so that's the only thing I use. And my other email is compost gal. So that's the first email I ever got, is compost gal, because that's what I was sort of specializing in, teaching people how to compost, how to put the billions of microorganisms in the soil do the work. All we humans can do is put together our leaves, which have a lot of carbon, our grass or our food waste, which have a lot of nitrogen, and maybe some extra things like the manure from the animals if we have animals, but we don't even need it. We put it together and then it cooks. It cooks itself. It can get up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and it really kills many weed seeds. Not all of them. So it's better you don't put your weed seeds in there. But it's a thrilling thing to see that cycle of life happen, so that from something that we consider waste like that, it becomes the food for the next generation of life. So does carbon dioxide, by the way. We get too much of it, and that can cause the global warming problem. But it's not appropriate to build new techniques to take care of it. Growing organically absorbs much more carbon in the soil. Growing chemically the soil is not able to absorb the carbon. And when the carbon's in the soil, it's there for the next generation of life. The cycle of life is so beautiful. And that's also what we're celebrating in this time of year, in the liturgical year. We're in Lent. We're getting ready for new life at Easter in the spiritual tradition of our Catholic faith. And and there we are. And also in the Hebrew tradition, it's Passover time. And in Ramadan, it's the end of Ramadan. So all three of our Abraham religions are celebrating this particular year almost at the same time. It's a time of new life, new birth, new hope. So, and we have the cycle of life to show us every year. And Sarah, you're just doing such a lovely job of explaining that. So maybe we go very briefly into the genetic engineering question because
Mm.
it's very different. So I think I always call it genetic engineering rather than GMO. They've managed to make us call all these patented seeds GMO, that's genetically modified organism, and that doesn't sound so bad. And that can sort of happen occasionally in nature too, that things get genetically modified. But genetic engineering shows what really happens. You could be in a laboratory and take a mouse gene and put it in a tomato gene. And you can
Mm.
take a human gene and or a pig gene and put it in a human. You can do all of these things. And one of the problems is this kind of genetic engineering crosses the brain blood barrier as us humans. So we don't know what's happening with all this food. So that's the thing I try to avoid the most is that. And so
Mm.
genetically engineered. And so what we've done with our commodity crops, which are soybean, uh, canola or rapeseed, and um, and now they've done wheat, which is a horrible thing, and in corn. And, like, over 90% of those crops are genetically engineered, so it's very hard to find the non-genetically engineered thing of all those things. So some other things are also genetically engineered, like the first one was a tomato, which is what I think Sarah was talking about. These are patented seeds and they don't grow true, and you're not even allowed to. Monsanto has sued all over the place because if the wind blows the genetic seed onto your land and you end up growing one of their patented plants without wanting to, you can be sued by Monsanto and they take your whole crop. And that's been happening. And so sometimes these things are won. And so now it's proven that the thing in Roundup, which is glyphosate that's sold all over the world, is a cancer-causing thing, and people are starting to win battles against that Monsanto, which is now owned by Bayer, which is a German company. So this fight is still going on. And so when I saw how bad it was in Kenya, and I realized that I was starting to work on this in 1996, way back then. And I was trying to keep it out of Africa, and I did not succeed. So that's one reason I am so involved and want to stay involved with Sarah and her struggle over there because I've been part of that particular struggle, but I haven't been very active in it in the last years, but I'm getting active again. So the difference,
Boy.
quickly the difference we have here, we have we have open pollinated seeds. That's the kind Sarah's mother grows. That's the kind if you raise your crop organically and you save the seeds, it's an open pollinated thing. It's also called a heritage seed. And it's the thing that everybody has to try to save. Save your heritage seeds because we lost about 75% already because of this nonsense that we're into. And then there's hybrids where you take different plants and you put them together to get certain things. It's not as good as the natural ones, but it is pretty good, and it's totally different than a genetically engineered seed, which people have to buy every year, and it's against the law to plant again, and it can be against the law to necessarily plant the hybrid seeds, but there are 3 different kinds, and there's lots more to say about each of those, but do strive to save your seeds and to form little groups that will save seeds and share them, and it's a very important practice to do. And just do it. Just do it.
I see that we're running out of time, and I think that Sarah might have another meeting to go to pretty soon. But that's okay because I just know in my bones that this is not going to be the last conversation that we have on this topic. Uh, and you know, I just had I'm just so grateful for the two of you because this is such exciting information that you're sharing. And Sarah, you were talking about how wonderful the food is at home with your mother, and I'm reminded that in the United States we have farmers markets where that's exactly what happens. Is that there's organic food, and there are people who have the right thinking in terms of raising food and so forth, and they bring it to the city, and it is one of those niche things that is very expensive, and yet it's the sort of thing, as I understand, that we really have to go to. The other side of the coin is that here in America, obesity and diabetes are running rampant. And it's because of the food that we have and some other factors, and you're describing the same thing in your country. So we have a lot in common. I just thought that was
Sure.
interesting.
That sounds good. And organic food is very expensive here today. For those ones who know that organic food is the healthiest, they sell it very expensive.
Well, let's pursue this a little bit further, and I'm going to toss it over to you, Trina, because you're going to wrap it up, and we'll continue the next time. What do you have there, Trina?
I have the first things that show up in my yard. These are the perennial happy things that give us hope. This is a this is forsythia that just dances all over the place. And I looked out the window the other day, and there it was, all yellow and bright and shiny, and so so that gives us hope as we work about these things. And I think we should use the word compost instead of manure for our
Yeah,
discussion. I think
you
that's what
are
you're
right.
talking about.
Yeah,
And,
you're right. Yeah, I mean, Trina, it's compost manure. You're right.
and the sadness of people turning toward what looks like the best way and the fastest way, the disappointment. And if you ever get to look at the work of Vandana Shiva, the great a person in India, she wrote the book called The Failure of the Green Revolution, which has done such terrible things in India. And certain people are trying to push this very hard in Africa, and they've gone pretty far already. And your government seems to be quite in line with it, unfortunately.
But- Yeah.
So is ours, and we started it. So,
Another way that our countries have something in common. It's not
amen.
always
So
anyway.
thank you, Scott, for doing this and being with us in this trio.
Thank you, Scott. Thank